Hey, did you know that being a frontline soldier for Russia is hazardous to your health? But just how hazardous is the subject of a lot of conversation right now, with some eye popping claims being made by both the usual suspects and perhaps a surprising voice. So pick up the phone, because that is the subject of today's edition of the Geopolitics Helpline. Recently, I have seen a bunch of reports claiming that Russian soldiers only survive about a half an hour on the front lines. Is that plausible, or is it just standard war propaganda? Okay, short answer, yes, it is plausible. It also would not be surprising, despite how the reporting of the story has treated it as though it is a shocking revelation. But we need to be careful about what is actually being said here, all of the incentive to stretch the claim for propaganda purposes, and the significant problem with trying to draw the correct statistical inference. Let me start with the real claim and why it should not be surprising. And I think that the best framing here is to focus on how the figure has been wrongly interpreted. The social media interpretation here has turned into a soldier reporting for duty on the front lines, the clock starting, and then 30 minutes later, he is a casualty of war. And note that casualty does not mean fatality, as it also includes injuries and captures in this context. Let's do some quick math for a minute. Credible reports from Western sources put total Russian casualties at about 30,000 per month, or 1,000 per day. Let's use these as truthful figures. If they are, in fact, exaggerated Western propaganda, the wrong interpretation only gets sillier. If soldiers survive for just 30 minutes, then Russia would have to completely refresh its front lines 48 times per day. Generously assuming that all Russian casualties come from the front line, to stay within the known total casualty figures, that would imply just 21 Russian soldiers guard the front line. 21 soldiers over a front line that stretches about 1,000 kilometers. Now, I am not saying that this is a good idea. But if that were true, I would like my odds if I were trying to push forward against the Russian positions. Consequently, that cannot at all be what this statistic is referencing. And I think plenty of blame ought to go around to the news media reporting on the subject. Because if you are not careful in how you describe the claim, it is easy for people to take it the wrong way, and I personally cannot blame them if they do not spend the time doing the math to catch the absurdity of that interpretation. That is the media's job. Now, if we simply change the framing of the statistic to a 30-minute survival rate, starting with when Russian soldiers try to press forward on the front line, then I think this becomes immediately plausible. Just recall how over-the-top raids in World War I worked. Back then, it might have only taken 15 minutes before a unit became combat ineffective. Or look to the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. Some companies only lasted 10 minutes on Omaha. If you adjust to how the drone war means that armies are not directly coming at each other, a 30-minute estimate does not seem crazy. A surveillance drone spots a raider moving across a field. An attack drone comes in, spending a little bit of extra time to locate the soldier hiding in a tree line. Voila, you have a 30-minute estimate. It sounds horrible, but it is not abnormal. It also would not be surprising to find out that Ukraine has roughly similar rates, except that Ukraine has a slight edge with these types of drones and is mostly on the defensive. Thus, Ukrainians are not running out into death traps on a regular basis and can therefore sustain their numbers. If we redo the math here, we again arrive at something that seems plausible. Suppose that half of Russian casualties are from these drone attacks. And let's also think back to the period where Russia might gain 300 or so square kilometers of territory per month. That would work out to being 50 casualties per square kilometer just for the outward push. Considering that it takes about 6 minutes to run a kilometer if you are in a hurry but weighed down by equipment, then yeah, this math seems plausible. But let me circle back to some inherent problems with trying to make sense of these claims. One issue is whether we should trust the source of any of the statistics. Interestingly, the recent discourse on the subject began on a small Russian blog. But these were no calls for peace. Rather, they came from a hawkish military blog, the type that is often critical of the Kremlin. They exist in this bizarre ecosphere of the last remaining whistleblowers in the country, or at least as close to a whistleblower as you can find. As for accuracy, it is not like they were getting out stopwatches to attempt an accurate measurement. This is more from the realm of vibes, no doubt influenced by rumors from disgruntled infantry on the front lines. As for reliability, it is often hard to judge whether the true intent is to correct a structural problem with the Russian military, or say whatever will make Putin look bad so a more hawkish leader could replace him. Now, these claims have cycled through the Western media, initially from Ukraine repeating them, and then from CIA Director John Radcliffe broadly confirming their accuracy while at a Defense Innovation Summit at the Army War College. Here is the full quote. Our intelligence is consistent with some of the open source reporting that you may have seen in Ukraine. So the average life expectancy of a Russian recruit right now, arriving on the battlefield in Ukraine, is estimated to be between 20 and 30 minutes. Cut and dry, right? Well, at the risk of tapping the sign, think about the message that Ukraine wants to convey to the Russian people. This war is not worth fighting, and you should not even think about personally signing a Ministry of Defense contract. Or, at the very least, maybe Ukraine's goal is to convince them not to sign at the current offers, thereby forcing the Kremlin to increase the offers further and continue to drain the already dwindling war accounts. It is an interesting juxtaposition, with hawkish Russian war bloggers sending the same information, but with a completely contrary goal in mind. And I hate having to repeat this so often due to the current political discourse, but the US intelligence community is pro-Ukraine, and so it has the same incentive to misrepresent. I know, the horror, right? The CIA possibly running an influence operation? What will they think of next? Anyway, there is one more problem to add to the mix. I do not know how Ukraine or the United States is trying to estimate Russian infantry survival times. But there is a fundamental bias in the most obvious way you might try. Wait until you see one pop up, start your stopwatch, keep it going until he is gone, and then average it out over a few hundred iterations. That seems great, but what you are actually measuring is how long it takes for Ukraine to disable an opposing soldier, conditional on spotting him. You cannot measure the full duration of the attack time, because Russia does not announce when an incursion begins. This is notably different from the World War examples from earlier, where the initiation of the attacks were apparent. Consequently, we are left where we were earlier. Is a 30-minute figure plausible? Yes, absolutely. Should it be surprising? No, not if you think about what it actually means. And we need to be careful about treating it as some sort of war truth with a capital T. Meanwhile, no need to be careful with your next click. Anything from the Geopolitics Helpline archive will be fantastic. Check it out here. And if you enjoyed today's video, then please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care.